Hello, dear garden lovers, and welcome back to Time for Gardening. If you've ever dreamed of creating a lush, romantic English cottage garden but thought it was too complicated or costly, today's video is just for you. We're diving into creative and charming ideas that blend timeless English garden beauty with upcycled container solutions you can easily try this summer. Grab your favorite cup of tea, sit back, and let yourself be inspired by these practical and enchanting ways to turn simple items into blooming treasures. Be sure to watch until the end for the full garden journey. There's something magical in every corner. A vintage enamel teapot transformed into a planter creates a charming welcome at the garden gate, its delicate curves and weathered surface telling stories of years past. Filled with trailing lobelia in soft blues or purples, it instantly draws attention and evokes nostalgia, a perfect nod to the whimsical spirit of an English cottage garden. This quaint centerpiece pairs beautifully with clusters of moss-covered clay pots brimming with pastel snapdragons, forming a gentle entryway that sets the tone for the entire space. Together, they weave a delicate introduction that says, "You've arrived somewhere cozy, creative, and full of floral surprises." Stacking old wooden drawers into a tiered display transforms unused corners into vertical layers of blooming joy. Each level, filled with cottage favorites like geraniums, alyssum, and creeping thyme, adds a rustic texture and dynamic structure to the space, ideal for small gardens needing a vertical boost. The charm lies in the drawers' worn paint, the way they lean slightly with age, and how each tier overflows with color and fragrance. It becomes a floral waterfall, spilling vibrancy downward and inviting the eye to wander and explore the space slowly, layer by layer. humble wooden crate, set just beneath a flowering rose arch, becomes a secret garden moment when filled with foxgloves and daisies. The tall spires of the foxglove stretch upward toward the arch, echoing the height of the climbing roses above, while the daisies nestle gently below. This composition effortlessly marries structure and spontaneity, a hallmark of cottage garden design. As visitors walk under the rose arch, they are greeted not just by fragrance overhead, but by a joyful burst of blooms at their feet, grounding the scene in humble upcycled charm. Galvanized buckets repurposed as planters and hung along the fence create an instant vertical bloom wall. Their rustic shine contrasts beautifully with the lightness of summer cosmos and cornflowers, drawing the eye upward and adding dimension to flat garden boundaries. The repetition of hanging containers along wooden posts offers rhythm and structure, while the airy wildflowers soften the hard lines. This simple yet impactful idea combines function and style, making use of small spaces without sacrificing visual delight. An old birdcage, once home to songbirds, now holds the earthy aromas of oregano, sage, and trailing rosemary. Suspended from a hook or tree branch, it becomes a floating herb garden that whispers romance and utility in the same breath. As the herbs spill gently through the cage bars, they echo the free-flowing essence of an English garden, while offering practical use for the kitchen. This creative fusion of beauty and function makes it a highlight in any cottage corner, blurring the line between ornament and purpose. A simple wooden pallet leaned against a fence becomes a living artwork when paired with painted tin cans planted with sweet peas, verbena, and trailing blooms. Each can, in soft pastel shades, adds a playful burst of color and offers a charming contrast to the wood's natural texture. This vertical arrangement is not only practical for tight spaces, but also elevates everyday recyclables into something enchanting. As the plants grow and spill from their containers, the pallet becomes a blooming tapestry, ideal for brightening and used corners with a cottage garden flourish. A weathered vintage sink, tucked into a shady corner, transforms into an oasis for moisture-loving plants. Ferns, astilbe, and pansies thrive in the cool basin, creating a refreshing contrast to the sunny borders often seen in cottage landscapes. The addition of a small mirror or reflective detail behind the sink enhances the depth and shimmer of the shaded spot. Together, the plants and reflective touches form a peaceful retreat, proof that even forgotten nooks can radiate beauty when approached with creativity. A wicker basket, humble and textured, becomes the perfect vessel for growing herbs like thyme and chives. Set along a path or near a kitchen door, its rustic charm invites both visual delight and culinary inspiration with every step. The natural woven material harmonizes effortlessly with the cottage aesthetic, softening the look of the garden while adding fragrant interest. As the herbs spill gently over the edges, the basket becomes more than a planter. It becomes part of the story and rhythm of the space. An old stepladder finds new life as a vertical flower stand, each rung supporting terracotta pots bursting with petunias, calendula, and marigolds. This tiered setup not only maximizes vertical space, but also adds sculptural interest to the garden scene. The contrast between the solid structure of the ladder and the flowing blooms creates a dynamic focal point. It's an effortless blend of utility and beauty, offering layers of color that draw the eye upward and make even the smallest spaces feel lush and abundant. An upcycled wooden drawer, slightly sun-faded and softened by time, peeks out from the flower border, filled with phlox and coreopsis. Its low profile and unexpected placement give the garden an air of discovery and whimsy. As the blooms spill gently over its edges and mingle with surrounding perennials, the drawer becomes a secret surprise for garden wanderers. It's these tucked-away details that bring depth and character to a true English cottage design, where every glance reveals something lovingly repurposed. Broken teacups, each with their own faded floral patterns, line the garden path like tiny porcelain treasures. Planted with moss, succulents, or thyme, they bring a soft touch of vintage elegance to the earth below, as if an afternoon tea party spilled into the garden. These delicate details evoke the charm and nostalgia of cottage living, transforming practical edging into a whimsical story. Their subtle presence encourages a slower pace, inviting visitors to pause and appreciate the beauty found in the smallest, most unexpected corners. Antique colanders suspended from tree branches with twine make delightful hanging planters filled with trailing nasturtiums. Their perforated surfaces allow light to filter through while supporting vibrant summer blooms that cascade like floral fountains. As they sway gently in the breeze, these creative planters add both movement and texture to the garden canopy. It's a sweet blend of utility and grace, ordinary kitchenware turned into a dreamy overhead display, further enhancing the immersive cottage garden experience. Old tires painted in soft pastel hues become tiered planters that rise with hollyhocks and delphiniums. Their bold vertical height adds drama, while the aged rubber, once forgotten, is reimagined into a statement piece filled with towering blooms. This unconventional display balances strength and softness, offering a sustainable alternative that doesn't sacrifice elegance. In the world of English cottage gardens, even a rugged material can be transformed into a blooming pillar of color and joy. A whitewashed wooden chair, worn by time and sun, becomes a quaint planter when its seat is filled with lavender and dusty miller. Set beside a trellis or in a quiet nook, it offers a restful visual pause in a garden filled with floral energy. Its aged frame blends seamlessly with the cottage aesthetic, and the soft purple and silver tones add calming hues. This simple reuse of furniture tells a quiet story, one of romance, comfort, and embracing beauty through imperfection. An old metal wheelbarrow, its paint chipped and handles rusted, becomes the stage for a cascade of rudbeckia and lobelia. Parked by the patio or nestled in a flower bed, it turns from tool to treasure, alive with movement and vibrant colors. Its portability and charm make it an ever-evolving focal point, one that can shift with the seasons or remain as a constant character in your garden's unfolding story. This blend of practical history and blooming life is what gives the cottage garden its timeless soul. A shallow enamel bowl, placed atop a stone pedestal, becomes an unexpected centerpiece when filled with aerialism and baby's breath. These delicate flowers in shades of white and blush create a soft cloud-like presence that draws the eye with subtle elegance. The contrast between the aged bowl and the finely textured blooms adds a vintage grace to any garden corner. Elevated above ground, this composition not only lifts the flowers visually, but also uplifts the overall atmosphere with its lightness and simplicity. A horizontal wooden ladder mounted to the garden fence becomes a gallery for painted floral tins, each brimming with pansies, chamomile, or mint. The structure adds rhythm and balance, while the tins inject splashes of color and fragrance at eye level. This playful setup turns vertical space into a functional floral feature. Each container becomes a brushstroke in a painter's garden, together forming a rustic, living mural that blends old-world charm with cheerful abundance. Stacked wine crates arranged in an L shape form a cozy, layered nook for pansies, zinnias, and trailing herbs. The wood's natural patina offers warmth and contrast to the vivid floral textures nestled inside each crate. This small-scale vignette invites intimacy and exploration, especially when adorned with a vintage lantern or ceramic bird. Tucked into a corner, it feels like a secret garden within the garden, an upcycled hideaway full of cottage character. A chipped porcelain pitcher, its handle still strong, cradles a fresh bouquet of cosmos in Queen Anne's lace. Set upon a wooden bench or low garden wall, it becomes both a planter and a poetic gesture, a nod to the countryside's softer side. The combination of airy wildflowers and vintage ceramic invites nostalgia with every glance. It adds a touch of curated imperfection, perfect for the kind of garden that celebrates romance, time-worn textures, and the joy of simple beauty. An old suitcase, propped open and lined with burlap, transforms into a whimsical planter filled with calendula, scented geraniums, and sprigs of chamomile. The blooms spill forward like a garden packed for a countryside getaway. Placed near a garden bench or pathway, it sparks conversation and curiosity. It's not just a container. It's a floral story, told with clever reuse and imaginative flair that perfectly complements the cottage garden's heartful aesthetic. Repurposed rain boots in cheerful colors and floral patterns stand neatly along a step or low bench, overflowing with begonias and trailing ivy. Each pair adds a burst of personality, as if the garden itself has dressed up for summer. This playful touch brings whimsy and childlike joy to your landscape while doubling as compact, movable planters. The repetition of blooms and shapes along a line adds rhythm and charm, especially in small spaces needing a bold, joyful accent. A rusted metal watering can, now bursting with white alyssum and blue lobelia, sits beside a smiling garden gnome nestled among the greenery. Together, they create a storybook vignette that's pure English cottage magic. The can's history as a tool and its current role as a planter tells a tale of renewal. The addition of the gnome brings a light-hearted character, reminding us that gardens are not just visual spaces, but places for imagination, memory, and delight. A sage green painted drawer, weathered and full of charm, becomes a quaint container garden planted with petunias, coral bells, and marjoram. Positioned near a small bistro table or resting beneath a flowering arch, it feels like a forgotten drawer of nature's treasures. Its muted tone provides a calming backdrop for the vibrant blooms within, while the contrasting textures of flowers and foliage create a richly layered look. This upcycled piece blends into the cottage aesthetic as if it has always belonged there. Along the edge of a winding garden path, half-buried watering cans, each planted with thyme, geraniums, and other summer favorites, create a rhythmic floral border. The repetition offers a quirky visual pattern, while each bloom adds color and texture. These vintage vessels, once used for tending the garden, now become part of its story. The gentle arch of their spouts and handles lends sculptural beauty, framing the path with a sense of movement and careworn nostalgia. A small woven basket hangs delicately from a garden fence, filled with pansies, straw, and a faux bird's nest. It's a sweet, nature-inspired detail that brings life to vertical space without overwhelming it. This vignette captures the quiet poetry of an English cottage garden, where even the suggestion of a bird's nest adds to the garden's sense of home and harmony. It's a gentle reminder that beauty lives not only in blooms, but in the small gestures of care and craft. An old wooden garden trug, once used to gather harvests, now overflows with sage, basil, and lemon balm. Placed on a rustic bench or beside a stepping stone path, it adds both fragrance and functionality to the cottage garden. The herbs tumble gently from its edges, softening the wood's lines and enhancing the handcrafted charm. This practical yet pretty planter connects garden to kitchen and tradition to sustainability, an essential part of the cottage lifestyle. Colanders painted in soft pastel tones are repurposed as hanging flower baskets, each filled with violas and trailing nasturtiums. Hung from hooks or tree limbs, they sway slightly in the breeze, casting playful shadows below. This creative reuse transforms common kitchenware into a charming visual feast. It's a perfect example of how the everyday becomes extraordinary in a garden that values storytelling, nostalgia, and cheerful color. A trio of stacked terracotta pots, arranged from large to small, becomes a blooming tower of ivy, petunias, and lobelia. This DIY topiary adds vertical flair while keeping with the warm, earthy tones of traditional garden pottery. As flowers cascade from each level, they create a living sculpture that draws the eye upward and adds structure to the cottage garden's gentle sprawl. It's both formal and free-spirited, a delightful contradiction rooted in creativity. classic window box, aged and wooden, is filled with bee-friendly blooms like borage, echinacea, and chamomile. Hung beneath a window or along a fence, it invites pollinators while serving up old-world cottage charm. Its mix of soft color, useful herbs, and daisy-like textures brings life to walls and boundaries. And as bees buzz and butterflies flutter, this humble box becomes a miniature ecosystem that celebrates the garden's quiet generosity. A vintage enamel tub, set at the garden's edge, bursts with summer favorites, cosmos, calendula, and sweet peas. Its soft curves and worn enamel reflect the gentle aging of a well-loved piece, now filled with vibrant life. Set beside a garden chair or stone path, it becomes a place to pause and enjoy the color, scent, and spirit of the season. In this final touch, your garden says it all. Every old item has potential, and every bloom has a place in your cottage story. We hope these ideas sparked your imagination and helped you see the incredible beauty in giving old items new life. From teapots to wheelbarrows, your garden can bloom with personality and charm, all while staying sustainable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more cottage garden inspiration, and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear your favorite idea. Thanks for spending time with Thyme for Gardening, and we'll see you in the next bloom-filled adventure.